Artsword. The film review.
This is Ritz Recommends. Ashley Franklin previewing this week's films at the Belper Ritz Cinema. Well, we have the one movie that dominates the week. In fact, right up to Thursday, June the 7th, there are at least 2 screenings per day, sometimes 3, of Solo, a Star Wars story. Well, I'm pleased to say this is a breezy blockbuster with some exhilarating action sequences and a quite fascinating backstory revealing how Han Solo became the most lovable scoundrel in the galaxy. In fact, I'm as much relieved as pleased because this film was fraught with difficulties. Firstly, the original directorial duo Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who made the Lego Movie, had creative differences with the producers and left the film last June only 3 weeks away from finishing principal photography. There must have been a hell of a lot wrong with the film for that to happen. Apparently, Miller and Lord had been encouraging improvisation and were making more of a comedy film. Into the director's cockpit came a safe, reliable director in Ron Howard. Not exactly a filmmaker you'd associate with sci-fi fantasy thrills, but when you also consider that the young actor in the lead role, Alden Ehrenreich, reportedly had an acting coach brought in to help shape his Solo, the fact that he makes for a very convincing and likeable hero could well be down to Howard's reputation as an actor's director. Now, whereas the last Star Wars backstory, Rogue One, was very much a war movie, this one is more attuned to the original Star Wars spirit in being more like cowboys in space. Indeed, when we first encounter Hans, you discover amongst other things how he got the name Solo. He is on a planet akin to the lawless West, where the Empire has yet to exert its grip on the galaxy. We learn early on that young Hans yearns to fly among the stars, and as he does so, he meets his future co-pilot Chewbacca and the notorious gambler Lando Calrissian, who happens to own the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy. Yes, the Millennium Falcon. Well, Han Solo gets into scrapes, heists and shootouts on both terra firma and in space, engaging with a pair of rogues played by Woody Harrelson and Thandie Newton, a supervillain played by Paul Bettany, a very entertaining droid voiced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who amusingly believes in equal rights with organic life, and there's love interest too, in the shape of Kira, played most attractively by Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. As for Ehrenreich, I wasn't too troubled by the rumour of the acting coach, because when I first saw him 2 years ago playing a dull-witted cowboy actor in the Coen brothers film Hail Caesar, he was quite brilliant, and the Coens certainly know how to cast. Well, he's great casting here. The 28-year-old Ehrenreich hasn't quite got Harrison Ford's roguish charm, but there's a swagger, a glint in the eye, and a general air of mischief that bodes well for any sequel, which I feel sure is being planned, because although Hans ends up on the desert planet of Tatooine, where he eventually meets Luke Skywalker, of course, the film closes 10 years before that encounter. Something tells me that a guy like Han Solo isn't going to spend the next decade downing those blue drinks in the cantina bar. He will crave a bit of action, which you certainly get in this film. If anything though, the action is a bit too frenetic and over-edited, resulting in an overall lack of suspense, tension and thrills. There's barely a moment where you can just sit back and wallow in the CGI, which is absolutely top drawer. And call me cynical if you like, but the overly paced sequences, along with an overload of information in the second half, seem to be deliberately designed to bring you back for a second viewing. If so, there's plenty of screenings for you to catch at the Ritz. That's Solo, a Star Wars story, on at the cinema until Thursday, June the 7th. The only other films on during this week are children's animations. Firstly, there's Mary and the Witch's Flower, a Japanese anime picture, which may actually be of some appeal to the adults because, for one thing, they are beautifully hand-drawn. Empire magazine hailed the film as a bewitching and visually dazzling adventure, while other reviewers have said it's magical, a joy to look at, and a visually stunning fairy tale. That's Mary and the Witch's Flower. Secondly, we have Duck, Duck, Goose, where a bachelor goose must form a bond with two lost ducklings as they journey south. I ought to point out that this is a PG animation for its mild violence, crude humour and coarse language. And finally, there's Sherlock Gnomes, an animation adventure where our titular detective is called in to investigate the mysterious disappearance of other garden ornaments. Here you have the voices of James McAvoy, Emily Blunt and Johnny Depp. This has been Ritz Recommends, where next time I shall take a close look at the film On Chesil Beach.
Derbyshire Artsword.
Derwent Valley on demand.